Hi guys, it's Steffi, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my weekly wrap up for the week of March the 12th to the 18th, and it has been a fabulous reading week. I have read 5 books and I've read a total of 1,868 pages, which is fabulous. Granted, not all of the books I enjoyed, but I enjoyed most of them and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them right now. The first book that I read this week was The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman, which is the first book in the Lady Helen series. And this book is sort of like a Jane Austen meets, I don't know, Shadowhunters, I think is the one that I've seen it compared to the most, although don't quote me, I haven't read Shadowhunters aside from the first book, so I can't really, vouch for the accuracy of that. However, it is the story of Lady Helen Rexwell, who on the eve of being presented to the Queen discovers that one of the housemaids from her house has gone missing, and she is drawn into the shadowy underworld that is present in Regency London. She also meets Lord Carlston, who is a man with a shady past, who has connections to her family that they would rather not admit to. As it turns out, he is one of the few people equipped to stop this infection of demons that plagues the city. And while this story was quite slow at times, and in fact it's quite slow through most of the book because it has the Regency feel of it, where you're dealing with that sort of daily life and how people are perceived and the restrictions placed on women at that time. That stuff's really interesting. I wish there'd been more of the supernatural paranormal woven into the story a little bit more, but overall it was a good story. I'm looking forward to reading the second book in the series, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was pretty good. The next book that I read this month was King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, which is the third book in the Red Queen series, and yeah, I didn't like this book. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, I suggest you just mute or skip forward until you see me talk about the next book, because yeah, I didn't like this at all. Where to begin? So it is the third book in the series, and at the end of the second book, Mare was captured by Maven and she's his prisoner and she has lost access to her abilities. This book is chunky, okay? This is huge and nothing happens in it until the very end. I don't even have words. I spent so much of this book just being annoyed. Mare's character has not improved. I know she's been through some tough things, but she is so whiny and self-important that I find it really difficult to connect with her. We had alternating chapters in this book, and since reading the second book in the series, Glass Sword, I have reconsidered my feelings and my rating for that book as well. And I had to do that because I read King's Cage and I could barely remember the characters that were introduced in the second book. Like, nothing had stuck with me. There are point of view chapters from Cameron in this book, and I couldn't tell you what Cameron did in the second book. I remember that she's in it because I remember her ability, but I can't remember anything that happened with that storyline. So that tells you something. So I'm not a fan, and remind me of this when the next book comes out in the series, because I thought this was a trilogy, but no, it's a series. So remind me when the next one comes out that I'm not to read it, because I have no interest anymore. I'm done. I'm done with it. Which, I hate to be negative. I really do, but I'm done. On a completely different note, the third book that I read this week was Mac Daddy by Penelope Ward, which is just a fun and silly romance book that was such a nice change of pace. I cannot even tell you. It was just nice to read something that was fluffy and sexy and just completely different, and I enjoyed it a whole hell of a lot. The story focuses around Mac Morrison and Frankie O'Hara, who were roommates back in college, and at the time they were best friends with some unresolved sexual tension going on, and then one night something happens that changes their entire future and they part ways, and they really don't speak for the next few years. Frankie goes on to become a school teacher, and at the start of the new school year, Mac turns up in her classroom with his young son in tow, and it is the story of them reconnecting, resolving their issues from the past, and trying to build a relationship together, because Mac goes after Frankie with everything that he's got, and Frankie is a little reluctant given their past, and so all of that slowly unravels as you're reading the story, and it was just fun. I really liked that these characters were not perfect characters either. Mac is definitely flawed, and he knows it and he admits to it and he's tried to change. And Frankie is someone who suffers from a lot of anxiety and a social anxiety, and I really connected with her because I feel like her. She says at one point in the book that she doesn't do humans, like she just doesn't understand them, and in a lot of ways that's what I feel like. I'm not very good with people, and it was nice to see characters who know they've got problems and they've tried to find a way to, build their life around these things that hold them back while trying to overcome them at the same time. So that was really good, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was also the complete opposite of the previous book, and that is The Boy at the Top of the Mountain by John Boyne. I read The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas many, many years ago, and it's one of the few books that has made me cry properly. This book didn't make me cry so much as it absolutely horrified me. So this is the story of Pierrot, who is, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably not. He is the son of a German father and a French mother, and he's living in Paris, and his parents both pass away within a few years of each other, and he's left an orphan, and he's taken in by his father's sister, his Aunt Beatrix, who works as the housemaid for a wealthy household that is situated at the top of the German mountains. This story is set during World War II, and we discover that the household where Pierrot goes to live is the Berghof, which belongs to Adolf Hitler, and this young 7-year-old boy is drawn into a world where some pretty horrible things happen, and ultimately I think it's about the power of suggestion on young children. So he's taken under the wing of Hitler, and he's exposed to all his ideas, and he's very young and very impressionable, and he takes those on, and you see through the course of this book how that affects him and the people around him. And honestly, a lot of this is horrifying, and I really wouldn't recommend this for young readers, because there's some pretty serious themes and topics going on here, so be wary of that. There's probably some trigger warnings in here. Very powerful stuff, because even though this is a fictitious sort of recount of what it might have been like at that time, we know that young children are very impressionable and they take on the views of the adults around them, and this was just a horrible, horrible example of that gone way too far. For a book with such heavy topics, it was actually quite easy to read. John Boyne's writing is very easy to read. Can't say that I enjoyed it as much as I found it to be a very intriguing read, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read this month was eGalley sent it to me by NetGalley, and I was really excited about this one. It is the 3rd book in the Out of Uniform series by Annabeth Albert, and that is On Point. And this series is a series of books that you can read in any order, but it follows the same group of characters. Most of them are Navy SEALs, and this is the 3rd book in the series, and this time we follow Maddox Horvat and Ben Tovey, who are best friends and roommates living together and serving in the same SEAL team, until one day they are caught in a mission that has gone completely pear-shaped, and they have to confront their feelings for each other and their relationship, which has become strained of late, and why that is, as well as looking at the way they perceive their world. Maddox is really reconsidering re-enlisting. He's decided he wants more from life than just being in the military, whereas Ben is devoted to the military and can't see himself doing anything else. So there's a lot of those conflicting aspects of their personality. Overall, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Super easy read. I read it in about 2.5 hours, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really love these characters. I can't wait to see what book comes out next and which characters we focus on. In the Out of Uniform series, all of these characters are woven into each story as side characters, so we got to see all the previous characters from the other 2 books as well, which was really nice. And overall, just a really fun, steamy read. So that is everything that I read this month. 2 physical books, 3 e-books. Pretty good. Can't complain with that. Let me know down in the comments, what have you been reading this week? What was your favourite read? I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.